Hey everybody, welcome to the Paula Peralta Show. I'm your host, Paula Peralta, and this is a show where I invite people that I love to talk about the things that we want to talk about because it's my show. So welcome. Whether you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us wherever you get your podcast, thank you for being here. And today I'm joined by someone who we actually just realized, and I think this is a lot of people that I've brought on the show so far. We've known each other for about 13 years.
Yes.
And we've seen some things. We've been through a lot of changes. But above all, we've just continued to grow and elevate ourselves, other people in the business, our artistry, and all those things. So I'm really excited for today's conversation because I don't know where it's going to go, just like all the other ones. But please welcome J Ladner. Hello, my friend.
I love you so much, Paula.
Same.
And whenever you were like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? Freaking out, clear my schedule. I was like, absolutely. Amen. Sign me up.
Well, we love that. I love it.
Yes.
And I think what's really cool is, one of the things I appreciate about you and one of the things that I've seen is that you very much have this energy of like elevate and just like create and keep elevating and keep creating and keep elevating and keep creating. And so I definitely want to talk about that in like all the different ways that it shows up. But my first question is like, have you always been that way? Has that always been kind of your personality? Is it something that you've always subscribed to, or is it something you came into?
Yeah, so I love this question. So rolling back the tapes, right? Rewind all the way to whenever I was 16. I grew up in a big family. There were 7 of us, right?
Okay.
And I'm like right in the middle, like black sheep. Out of all 7, my dad's like, oh, wow, okay, here we go, right? But when I was 16, I was kicked out for being different, for being gay. Wow. And from that moment, I had 2 choices. I can suit it up, find my chosen family, and just pave a way and almost take that pain as like acceleration or give up. Like there was 2 options. So thank goodness I chose the first, right? And my oldest sister took me in. I finished high school. Actually, I got my GED. I was like the oldest one in my school. So from that moment, I was going to prove my family wrong. Like they gave up on me, but I was not going to give up on myself. And that momentum, so I guess I was thrust into that energy and I never stopped. And what I have found was through mentorship all the way to when I was 16, like I had mentors in my life that people I looked up to, people who came into my life, the world gifted me them. And they were there to kind of solidify my path. And I was able to, as I grew and made mistakes and celebrated victories, I was able to make my own decisions. So I think like that momentum, I had nothing to lose. I already lost it all. So I always go back to that place throughout my career to like remember where I've been.
That's so cool. And I think it's interesting because that I see is like a common thread with a lot of people that are really successful is that like when you've lost everything, you actually you also lose the fear of losing everything.
Yes.
Because you're just like, well, I've already been at the bottom so far and here I am. So I think it's interesting where like the thing that we fear is often the thing that, like you said, spurs us and motivates us and keeps us creating. So let's now fast forward into like having your life and your business be in the beauty industry as a hairdresser. How do you keep that like inspiration? How do you keep that motivation as you like navigate your world?
I'm telling you what, Paula, like my life right now is wild. Like there's arenas that I'm standing in now in manufacturing and really in innovation. And really, I'm like, I pinch myself daily. I'm like, how did I even get into this room? And it was because I feel like I had the mentorship. I was really aware in the room. And I'm vivacious, as we know.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, like in key moments, I took the seat back. I was quiet in the room. I was observing, I was watching, and I was listening to the conversation. So now I'm in the room and I have mentees and I'm like people that I'm mentoring, that I'm sharing that knowledge. But my daily life right now is like, I'm still a hairdresser behind the chair. I can't give it up. I feel like the moment I let go of that chair, like I'm going to lose all my credibility. Like that's the core, the heartbeat of what we do. Right. Sure. So I still do that about once, maybe twice a week, on like heavy travel days. I absolutely do not do hair. I don't have the capacity, but now I'm like director of education for Fast Foils, for All Liquid Professional. I'm their chief print ambassador. So it's like a lot of like innovation, product development, like really listening to the heartbeat of the industry, the stylists, people in my DMs, like when I'm in person with them, like asking them like what they need. So I now have the ability to create action, to hold the brands that I'm with accountable to make sure they're navigating this industry with awareness and doing it with passion and meaning it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the things with Fast Foils, like I know it's a huge conversation around like efficiency and really kind of taking hairstylists out of the like kind of roboticness that we have a tendency to get into, where we're not actually thinking about what we're doing. We're just like letting really the guest drive the chair, drive the car. And you definitely, you approach it from a different perspective. So can you talk a little bit about what that perspective is and like, how does it, how have you seen it change the beauty industry?
So I think this is a crucial conversation for all of us. I remember when I owned a salon in Dayton, Ohio, I was with Paul Mitchell, and then I kind of like was about to move. So I was like, okay, can't do that. So I started doing independent education. And what I found just in that small community I was inviting stylists in is they were always talking about, how do I maximize our revenue behind the chair? And you have to look at the artist itself, like the individual, and how do they move and shake on the regular? Like, what is their movement and their energy behind the chair? Are they playing it safe and playing on autopilot? Are they just sticking to what they know from like back in the day? Are they looking at their world in a more curious way, right? So for me and the innovation, I remember back then, like 2017, 2018, I started like stepping into the efficiency like mindset, and it was too early. Like it was dramatic. I was like, I'm dramatic. It was dramatic. The comments, they were like, heck no, like you cannot go there. Like it's too much, right? But over time, through seeing things more often, we get a little bit more curious and a little bit more smarter. So now what I'm seeing is that to maximize revenue behind the chair, we have a couple ways, right? But I want you to maximize your revenue already in your business. The clients and the raving fans that you're a trusted advisor to right now, I want you to rev it up for them. So how do we do that? Better tools, better placement. So let's maximize the time that we're installing, we're delivering, we're guest experiencing, and let's also maximize your freedom. So through innovation, tools like Fast Foils being 25% more efficient in the lift, in the same working hours, you can add on one more guest. Right? The guest that you're putting off or it's on your wait list, like you can get them in sooner and you can do it with more clarity, right? It's almost, and let me know what you think about this. It's almost so simple.
Yeah.
Right? The essentials, the way we navigate now with wider foils and better technology with our products. And it's so simple that it's so hard.
Well, I think it's interesting because when you say that thing about simplicity is like, we're very much, I think in the beauty industry as creators and people in general, our culture leads this like all or nothing sort of mentality. Yeah. So a lot of people think like you've got to completely overhaul your business in order to make it easier, better, faster, stronger, more efficient, whatever that is. Like, so I think it's interesting where you're just like, no, like if you make this small tweak, like ultimately the entire future of your business changes. And that's like also realistic. Like we learn, I mean, even, there's a book, Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it. But
my gosh.
But like he talks about how even if like a plane changes like, I think course it's like 15 degrees, like if they're flying across the country, it's the difference between ending up in like New York and Washington, D.C., which are not close. Like, I mean, and so it's a slight shift that creates a massive impact in like where you end up. And I love your approach to this where you're like, here's a technical way that we can approach this and actually change the trajectory of your business.
Exactly.
And I think that's really cool, and it's a great conversation. One of the other things I know you talk a lot about is like pricing.
Yeah.
And I know in the industry, price transparency, this is something like I talked to Sabrina about because I feel like she broke the internet with a couple times.
Oh yeah. She has.
and I think now there's definitely more stylists and more leaders and kind of thought leaders in the industry that are willing to talk about things like pricing, whereas before it was so taboo.
Yes.
So what's your perspective on like salon pricing, stylist pricing, having those conversations with your guests?
I am fired up about this because I will step back to when I first opened my salon, and I had it for almost 8 years. And I remember when I was 24, like there was like no knowledge, right? I just knew how to do hair, and that was awesome. So as I was looking around, I looked to my community to give me the answer. Now, having awareness of what is the going market, right? The rate of a full highlight or a balayage, that's cool. Like we want to be aware, right? But one thing I found over time was understanding the crucial numbers within your business, right? Like understanding that your rent needs to be 7% or less. Like of your monthly sales, like your retention rate, your new client rate, like what are your product costs? If you're a salon owner, commission owner, like what is your overhead? What is your payroll, right? So I think first it's getting curious within your business and making it fun. Because I know I'm not a numbers person, and if I see a spreadsheet, I want to run for the hills.
Yeah, totally.
But I make it fun. I go, when I'm aware, when I have the awareness, I'm more curious on how I can dip into each subsections within my business, right? And when it comes to price, if all of that is aligned, right? You know the crucial numbers, but you also are so good at serving. You have that servant heart. Like that's what I feel like really needs to be tapped into again, because I get the chance to walk into salons, and I know you do too. And you're an energy person. I am too. And I'll know from the get-go, the moment I step foot into the parking lot, if there is servant leaders within that business. So it's almost tapping back into that heart of a hairdresser and why we chose it. Like I do it because I was abandoned. So I don't want anyone to feel left behind. So I always remember the why factor. And once you have that guest service, your guest, as you move and shake and you raise your price and if the experience is there, if you care about it, if you love it and you mean it, not every single one of our guests are going to say, Paula, I'm leaving you because you raised your price 10%, right? They're going to go along the journey with you.
Yeah. Well, and I love, you said something there that's like so key. And I just want to like highlight it again, because you were like, I do it because I was abandoned, and I don't want people to feel abandoned, like when they sit in my chair. And I think it's that one thing is so crucial, because when you understand why you're actually doing something, like there's so many, like Simon Sinek, like start with why, like there's so many branding and like purpose driven sort of conversations. But it's like, for me, and I'm going to share this just to continue to make the point, but like for me, I had terrible experiences as like a biracial woman going in, like essentially like white people think I have black hair, but black not having like coarser, finer, coily texture that a lot of people associate, which isn't necessarily true, by the way. But like really like being mistaken a lot of times, are like sort of prescribed in salons. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I became a hairdresser because I didn't ever want people to feel what I felt, where like I was gaslit or not serviced properly or whatever that is. Like, and so for me, that's my why. Is like I want everyone to come in, feel like they can, their hair is the best hair in the world, and that they can be taken care of in a really beautiful way and have a beautiful experience. And whatever that is for you, that, you know, if you're listening or watching this, like whatever that is for you, that's like the thing that's going to drive a lot of the choices that you make in your business. Because honestly, like we can't do everything. Yes, like we can't do it all. We just can't. So it's like, but the more clear you are on your purpose and what do you want people to feel when they come with you, like the easier it is for you to deliver that. And it might just be one thing in your service that like really highlights that, but the rest of it just has this like under kind of lying energy of, Absolutely. You know, I want everyone to feel welcome here. I want no one to feel left behind. Yes. Like that kind of thing. Or, you know, like I want everyone to feel welcome. I want them to feel like they can get their hair service no matter what their texture or formation is. Right. Like I think that's brilliant and it's so key, and I don't think enough people talk about that.
Yeah, it's really, I think, crucial. Mm-hmm. It like we have to tap back into the heartbeat of the hairdresser, and what that does, what message and energy it gives is to the distributorships and the manufacturers. It sends a clear message when we're aligned to that. What we want, what we need, right? To be supported behind the chair. So once we all understand our significant why, and it's all special and it's unique and they're not all the same. Yeah. We could relate on certain things, but it's so special. And when we truly honor that, when we speak about it, when we live it, when we tell our guests, our communities, like why we're there in the first place. Not only that, I have to share something. When is the last time, I want to ask everyone like listening, when is the last time you gave a love note or a hug, like a hug or a thank you to your raving fans behind the chair? When was it? Right? The community, right? So we have the ability to touch a lot of people and to change narratives. Right? And really educate our community on what needs to be talked about. So it's also tapping into that.
Yeah. I think that's so cool. And it's so crazy too, even just hearing you say the thing about like, I was abandoned, so I want to make sure no one's left behind. It's so like, it makes so much sense. Just like having watched you navigate the years, I'm like, I've never heard you say that, but it's so aligned with like how you be in the world. And like this thing of like inclusion and just really connecting and making people feel loved and seen and welcomed and heard and like all of those things. I think it's like, that's really brilliant. So good job, you.
Thank you.
Good job, you. So like, what are some things that are really inspiring you right now?
So things that are really inspiring me right now, I am so curious about science, like more than ever. Like we are chemists, we are like mixing up, you know, in the lab, like all these colors. So for me, it's like looking at every single motion I make as a stylist behind the chair and being curious on the things that like seem like not as fluid or flow, right? Like how can we adapt and evolve this? Like what is that tool? What is that color? Like what is that additive that goes into a color? Like I'm so curious on like ingredients and science and how can we really manipulate tools that we already have. So that's where like I'm living now. Yeah. But I just went to Beverly Hills for the car show and I'm like butching it up. Like you
got your like American muscle car. Like,
yes, I was like, oh my God, like these engines, like just being curious. And I think like my main thing right now was, I'm gonna be real, like the past, I would say 2 years ago, I just like hit rock bottom. Like I was just lost. I was doing good-ish to the facing. But internally, I was just so lost. I didn't really know where I wanted to go. And you know why? I wasn't curious. I played it safe. I like it was too much pause, right? Like I was just playing it safe. And once I was like, I had enough. I was in therapy, and he was like, "Wait, like you always like are curious. You've done so much in your career, like in your life. So what is it, right? So I had to face myself in the mirror, did a lot of work on that. And then I tapped back into curiosity, right? Everything we've ever need to know is always right in front of us. Mm-hmm. It's like, are we willing to go there? Mm-hmm. Are we willing to sit right next to that uncomfortableness, mm-hmm. right? That pain, mm-hmm. that like baby self, mm-hmm. who likes to show up and play and mm-hmm. act up sometimes, mm-hmm. right? Like, so remaining curious in the arenas and the rooms and the walls that you're in, right? Or out in the world, like, yeah. What's inspiring mm-hmm. you?
Who's interviewing here? You know? Who here? No, I know. I love it. Thank you for asking. So for me, I've definitely been in, like, I am very much in like my soft life era.
Yes.
Where like, if you don't know what that is, it's just like, I want, like, my whole thing is really empowering hairdressers to create a life that they don't need a vacation from. Not even hairdressers, people. Yes. I want the world to know, clients, like, whether I'm in my coaching business, whether I'm behind the chair, whatever that looks like, just helping people to get that, like, hustle culture can be super fun and it can be amazing and generative and creative and so invigorating. And also, like, that doesn't have to be the be all end all. Like, it's hustle is so glamorized. And I think for me, we often in that hustle culture say yes to things that aren't necessarily aligned with who we are or authentic to who we are. And it eventually, like you said, I mean, and I can totally relate to that, where you're like, listen, 2 years ago, like, I hit rock bottom, and on the outside it looked great, but on the inside it was a mess. And I didn't know that, you know, I didn't feel like it was sustainable or whatever that is. So for me, it's like, people always hear me say, like, well, what if you could create a life you don't need a vacation from? And thank you for snapping. Because some people are like, well, vacation's not a bad thing. Vacation is, I'm like, yeah, but literally, like, no, you're traveling, you're experiencing, like, but a vacation literally means to vacate your life. So if you feel like you need to vacate your life, there's a bigger issue going on. So, like, that is for me, I think, the thing that I truly am, like, doubling down on embodying that and being like, let me create a space physically, like, in my schedule, in, like, all of these different ways, like, creating space for myself to be soft and to be nurtured and to be taken care of and to like to, you know, recoup and all this. And I think there's a huge conversation right now around burnout, right? Like, everyone's talking about burnout, and I think most people have experienced it. And side note, if you know, you've heard about burnout and you're like, oh, I don't have those symptoms, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not burnt out. It just means that it's not showing up as everyone else. Like, it just means you're different. And so I think for me, that's, like, been a big part of my mission lately, is just really giving people permission to be soft and to create a life that they love, and just reminding people that it's possible. Because I think even too, like, I know you can relate to this, like, and you said this just now, but, like, I could not have told you, like, 15 years ago that this is where my life would be. Like, there's no way. Like, I could have never imagined or guessed or predicted that this is where I am. And so I think it's like, you know, this came up in a conversation that we had with Renee on another episode, but, like, literally the best thing you can do is just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Every day.
Yeah. So I think for me, like, I'm just super inspired by that. Like, what does your beautiful life look like? And giving people space to have clarity and really asking questions and getting really vulnerable with, like, okay, but is that actually your vision of a beautiful life? Or is that, like, something that you saw on TV or something you heard someone else say? Like, and if it's the same thing, great. And if it's not, that's great too. Like, what does your life look like? If you were living life on your terms, what would that look like? And, you know, to be honest, it wasn't something that I always felt like I had permission or space to do or choose. And so I think, that's what's inspiring me.
So beautiful.
You know, it's like, I just want to live my life and be happy and, like, do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah, and it can be easy. Yeah, and it can be fun.
Totally. Yeah, and it is a privilege, and I fully acknowledge that. But I also was in a place before where, like, I had no money, I had no I felt like I had no choice. And that's changing. So I'm going to embrace it and be
shouting
from the rooftops. Like, hey guys over here, come
like,
try
look,
this way.
it can happen. It is happening.
Totally.
You're happening.
Totally.
You're happening.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? I love
1000%.
that. I'm fired up.
Thank you. Thanks for asking that. So, one of the other things that actually, so a couple of years ago, let's rewind, because we were on a panel together and it was about technology. And I have to be honest, so I've known J Ladner. I've known you for a long time. And I mistakenly called you Josh. And because when I met you, like, you were Josh Ladner.
Yeah.
And it actually, and you were so gracious and so amazing. And I was like, I apologize. Like, I'm so sorry that it took me a second to even like realize that J Ladner wasn't just your handle. It was like, now you're like
that
like
full embodiment.
The J Ladner. Yeah. And so I was like, I have to tell you, like, that was such a cool invitation and a turning point for me, because on that panel, you also talked about inclusivity and diversity and equity and belonging and all of those things. And for me, while a lot of us in the last several years have been having a lot of those conversations, that was so huge for me, where it was like someone that I actually care about, like, has had this like change. And the while again, you were so gracious about it, like the least I could do was to be celebratory and to pivot with you in that change and celebrate. And I have to tell you thank you.
Oh.
Because another one of the conversations that you brought up was like about how you facilitate that in your business.
Yeah.
And it was like a game changer for me, because you specifically talked about how in your client request forms, you talk about things like pronouns.
Yes.
You talk about like, what sort of name do you like to be referred by? Like, maybe this is your government name, but like, what's your like, you know what I mean? And so, and for me, it was amazing, because I went through, I went back to my forums. Shout out to Vagaro, your forums portion of the app is amazing. We love it. By the way, speaking of, okay, so I would describe you as iconic. Vagaro has an event coming up, Iconic 23, for those of you that are listening or watching. It's in September in San Diego, and it's like a panel. It's like beauty, wellness, health professionals. I met Venus Williams last year at the Iconic 22. But if you guys want to check that out, you can go to vagaro.com/pro/Paula, and you can get your tickets. And, I mean, maybe we could carpool to San Diego. You could come with me.
Going. I'm getting a ticket. Absolutely,
it would be amazing. But I immediately like logged into my Vagaro thing, created my form. In fact, I think I texted you after. I was like, "What form do you use?" I looked at it and was like, "Okay, cool." And I really admire how much you like truly live and embody and weave through your business this thing about inclusion and really seeing people and hearing them and meeting them where they're at. And what advice would you give to someone that is like, I don't even know where to start?
Can I cuss on this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. Okay, so number one, you're gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
You're gonna get it wrong. I got it wrong.
I did too.
I did
too on a panel.
Wrong. You know what I mean? In my life, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, I'm part of like a minority group being gay, but I also have a lot of privilege on my skin.
Yeah.
Right? So it's getting curious on that, right? And doing the work. And what I mean by that is people that are close to me, I listen to their stories and I listen to their conversations and their real life experiences when they say, you brought up like your hair, like you didn't really fit anywhere and that made you like sad and feel pain, and I believe you. And I think that is one of the number one things is believing and honoring everyone's truths, right? So number one is like believing it.
Even if you can't relate, even if you have zero context.
On pain.
Yeah,
we can all understand pain.
Totally.
Right? Yes. So connect where they're at and believe them and say, that's not my reality, but I know that there's pain there. And I don't want you as a fellow person of this universe to ever go through that.
Yeah.
Right. And I can meet you where you're at. So like meeting somewhere they're at, and then get curious. Like we have an amazing thing called Google. What? You type something in there, what does this mean? Or how can I be, right? You have all the information. So do the work and then find your besties, your like the people closest to you where it's a safe space for you to ask open-ended questions about what their life is like and where they should navigate. Like if I try to walk down this lane of being like, for instance, the other day, I had like on my Instagram, my pronouns are he, him. And like this woman, I don't know her. She doesn't follow me, but she was just being sassy.
The women that say things, usually you don't know them. And yeah.
So she was like, girl, like, da-da-da, and just like was running her mouth. And I was like, first of all, I'm J, he, him. Like, you don't get to run up on me and misgender me. Like, first of all, because she was coming in hot on one of my comments, which, bring it on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Right. So I'm like, first of all, my pronouns are he, him. Let's start there. Okay. And then we can talk about everything else that's you wrote out in a paragraph. Anyways. So it's like remaining curious and believing. And I feel like doing the research and then finding someone who's like me or like you who have lived a life that has like obstacles in front of us and going, what does that look like? How can I be a better ally? Like, how can I be a better person? And allowing yourself to step right into the arena and be there. And I think I want to bring this up, like in 2020, that was something that I think shook all of us, right? And
you're talking about George Floyd being murdered.
All of it.
Yeah.
And I think we all had an opportunity to step forward and get curious or not. And across the board, I want to specifically talk about the industry, right? We did. And one thing with having the podcast was that was a promise that me and Nina did. We didn't know what that was like. I will never know, right? But I went there. I asked questions. I like got as much knowledge as I can. And I asked, how can I be better where I'm at in my life right now, in the industry, in my life, like what can happen? And as I remained curious on that, and we really stepped in the arena and had amazing conversations that I got wrong, like on live on podcast. I'm like, oh, right? Like that's my lack of knowledge and awareness, right? Like I was putting myself out there to say, like, you at least have to go there. Like you have to do something, and that something is magic, right? But fast forward, Kia Nail, someone who I think is like very special to both of us. She has been such a great, just fellow human to me. And I remember asking her, how can I be better? And she's like, every room that you can get in, because the way you look and the way you identify, just do a little invite. And that got to really happen at ABS this year. And it was wild. Yeah. Like it was insane. And that community, that connection, I think will really, I mean, those rooms were sold out and like the energy was energizing. And it's just creating the space for artists who don't ever get the opportunity to have main stage. Like artists that are so talented in their life credibility and their career credibility get the last classroom of the day or whatever. Like it's our job at all costs, if you do what I do and you do what Paula does, like you have to create space for that. So I know you said what is one thing.
No, I love it.
I went down what is good for me. But I also still on the daily get it wrong. And like across the board, even in the LGBTQIA plus community, I get it wrong. It's always evolving. It's always changing. And I think we have to respect each other as just we're on this earth together.
Yeah.
And we have pain and we have baggage and we have joy and we have celebration all encompassed in one body. And if we can just see each other for who we are, let's go there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's like so often in anything, whether you're talking about business or relationships or like diversity and inclusion, like on any level, whether it's race, gender, like anything like that. It's like that fear it's such a pitiful excuse for not choosing something different. And that this is, listen, I give myself this talking to all the time. Like, you can be afraid, but you can't let fear be the reason you don't keep moving forward.
Right.
And that is something that I have just had to force myself to live by, because it is uncomfortable and it is scary.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can acknowledge that I'm scared and still keep moving and still keep choosing, even if it's like I can only take like a half a baby step forward because I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? You know? So, but it's that thing of like, it's being afraid for me is like no longer an excuse to not learn, not grow, not choose, not keep moving forward.
I love that the word you chose that really does it for me is choose. Yeah. It's a choice, right? Yeah. All of our actions are choices. And listen, if you're a rebel with a beauty cause, be a rebel and choose that. You know what I mean? If you're playing it safe, choose that. But to get true growth and experience what this world has to offer, and the ability to stand in any room and fill the room and have abundance in the room, it's like, it does take effort. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, it does. Like, you have to be aware and you have to seek out. But the accessibility now of mentorship, of connection, there's no excuses. Totally. There's none.
It's true. And I think, like, it's really interesting. So there's a couple of artists that I've been mentoring, and they're like, it's interesting because I think so often mentorship used to be this like hierarchical thing, and now it's very much this kind of like, for me, it's like very linear and lateral, like where it's like there's even people that, you know, I would say are my equals for all intents and purposes, my peers, but I still could help to guide them in an area where I might have a strength and they don't, or vice versa. And I think that for me was like one of the major turning points in even what you're talking about, like with Kia, where it's like, if you're in the room, like, look at the room. Who's not in the room? Yes. Like, who else could be in that room to elevate the room and make it shine even brighter? And I think so often people look at this thing of that we call the beauty industry, and it's it can be very competitive, and it can be a little petty or a lot petty. And also, like, it doesn't have to be like you get to choose what that energy looks like or how it shows up or doesn't show up. And I think there's room for everybody. And so there's always space. I love that recommendation you made, like, bring someone else into the room that Kia made. Because it's true. Like, I think regardless of whether you're trying to be an ally or not, like, it's just be a good human.
That's like, it.
It's just like be a good human.
We like to complicate things. Totally. I complicate things. Yeah. I don't know if you can like embody that. 1000%. But it's like, we like to, as human nature, like, be chaos. And it's like, if we just remember, like, every day we like wake up, some days it's easy to get out of bed, others are hard, and we place our feet on the ground and we make a choice. Like, this is it. And it's like also honoring, you know, all of that encompasses, right? But the connection piece is like what it is the driving force of success and failure, both. Like, if you don't seek out support, if you don't let people know who you are, what you need, of course you're going to lack any momentum moving forward. But once you lean all the way in and you get in the car, you know what I mean? Speak up, say what you need to people closest to you. That's the momentum that you need moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. It's so good. Yeah. So what's next? Like, what is it? Like, what is it that you'd like to see in the coming days, weeks, months, years?
So I'm a dad, and our daughter just finished her first year of college.
Oh my gosh.
I remember walking her to kindergarten.
I can't even believe
I'm
that.
like, what is happening? Right? And our son has one more year. He goes to University High in Westwood. He has one more year. So he just finished junior year. So what I have seen is like, I have been living on a plane, which I'm so grateful. I have been working, moving, shaking, and manifesting with action to have this life, to reach as many people as possible. And I'm still going to continue that, but it's choosing when. Mm-hmm. And I love, like, this past weekend, I just hung out with my husband. Mm-hmm. And we were just best friends. And it can get lost when you're choosing work or you're choosing this energy, which has great outcomes. We get to live a very fruitful life for that, and with his career as well. But it's like choosing moments of like pause together and like doing that. So I want to spend more time this summer. Our daughter's coming back home. Our son is here. Like, we just want to like create memories, because I'm finding having kids, like, I'm 35, so I'm not like that old, but having kids accelerates your viewpoint where they're like 19 and 17. And I'm like, I can remember being 19 and 17, and now I'm 35. So like, it kind of like speeds that. So that's that. Creating new innovation and just like changing people's mindsets about their value and like about how to navigate the chair with fast foils. That is something that I never thought I would be in the room with. And we're like, we're revving it up and we're disrupting, and it's forcing other companies to kind of look over at us and go like, what's up?
Who dat?
So, and what I love too is like, we're 2, 3, 4 hairdressers that are leading the company. So it's the heartbeat of the industry. It's the why. And all of us are hairdressers behind the chair. So we're like in the trench with everyone. So that, and then I think just so pause with my family. I already travel, so I get to see that. Yeah. And then innovation side, all of that. But I'm going to leak something. Just, it's going to be very blanket.
You heard it here first.
It's going to be very blanketed. There's 2 words that I live by, and it's adapt and evolve. And I, through my life, and we talked about it earlier in the podcast, was like knowing when it's time to adapt and evolve and to exit out things and enter into new things. So I just need everyone to understand that adapt and evolve is my culture within my life. So it may look a little different coming in the next 6 months.
I love it.
So I'm excited to.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm so
and honoring rooms I've been in, and like walking out of it like, let's go. Like, it's been great. It's doing good. Yeah. Like, let's do it. So make sure to check out my podcast that I run my mouth on too. Run it. I
love it.
But I also want to connect with everyone. So this is my call to action. Can I do one for them?
You do whatever you want.
So my call to action to you, and you know who you are. I know. Your knees are shaking because I'm calling you out. I want you to know that like, you're not alone, and you have support, and you have mentors right in front of you, ready to go. Not saying just me. If I'm speaking to you, slide into the DM. I tell everyone this, and it's probably like really bad that I say this, but it hasn't made me stressed. But my contact information goes to me in my IG. Like, you don't have to just do DM. You could get me on the line. And I think a lot of people get nervous and they don't do it, but I am available. So if you need support, if you're curious about how to adapt and evolve, how to sell a business, how to like start a business, whatever that looks like, reach out, lean in. A closed mouth never gets fed.
That is the
So are you hungry?
I love it. True. Here. Cheers to that. Yeah, right. You don't have to be. Turns out.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
Choices.
I
I love it. Well, that's cool. I mean, and I think that's what's really great. The thing about adapting, evolving, it's funny. I was just working with my team at Orlando, and two of the stylists, we kind of had like a download conversation about some stuff, because they want feedback, like what worked, what didn't, all this stuff. And they were like, listen, like if there are two things that you've taught, or like one thing that you've ever taught us, it's like pivot.
Yes.
Like be ready to pivot. And you don't always have to pivot, but if you're ready to pivot, it goes easy, right? Like we're like ducks swimming on water. Like on top we're real smooth, but underneath it's like you're paddling as quick as you can, trying to get where you're trying to go. And I think like I love that you're living, that you have these two words that you live by, because adaptability and like the choice to evolve it's the thing that actually continues to elevate you.
Yes.
Without that, elevation becomes effortless.
Yes.
And I think that's what's really cool about people like you who are just willing to speak your truth and live your truth and like be the message that you're speaking to, and invite other people to do the same thing in whatever way that looks like for them. Yeah,
I'm like, get in, the water's warm.
Totally.
You'll love it in here.
I love it. It's so good. I'm so excited to see like what you create.
Get ready.
Don't worry, once the camera stops rolling, I'm gonna start asking you questions.
You'll find out. You'll find out.
But I love it, and I'm so happy for you. Okay, so something else that we do, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm obsessed with Crocs. Like,
yes. I want to step into Crocs.
Okay, well, I think everyone should. Everyone needs to be living a Croc life. Like, even if you just have one pair, let them be your house shoes. Step out into the streets, get your street style, whatever it is.
Your charm game is
strong.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for respecting.
Yes.
So every guest on the show gets a pair of Crocs.
Shut. That's why you asked me my size.
Yes. So
Paula.
So I just like choose the ones that I'm like, okay, I can actually see them wearing these. And so I've been
Stop it. You had them over there the whole time.
So I got you a pair of Crocs.
Baby.
I'll tell you.
Oh my God. Oh, you gotta give me the tea on the charms.
I'll send you all the links.
I'm obsessed.
How cute are they? Platforms? I was like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, Jay for sure needs a platform.
Oh, you already know I need to be elevated.
Yes, elevate.
Because sometimes the water gets high.
That's right. But I'm telling you, it's like,
I love them. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Babe, I'm ready. I'm ready. IBS Vegas this weekend. Get ready. I'm going to get charms this week.
Jewel it
I
up.
love them. Thank you.
You're so welcome. It's so good. It's so funny how, like, because, the internet can be a dark place.
Yeah.
People got a lot to say about Crocs, and I'm like, let me just live my life.
Like, I don't know. I've never owned a pair, but I'm going to embody these.
They're so comfortable. You're going to love them.
And every day, I'm going to live that soft Paula vibe, hun.
That's right.
When I'm up in these gigs.
I'm telling you, though, like, work a show in a pair of Crocs, and your whole life changes.
Oh, I'm ready.
Because my feet do not hurt. My back does not hurt. Like, all those steps we step in, I'm telling you. Put on your boots are beautiful. Put them on before you get on stage.
You know what? We're going to put them on now. Okay. Get these boot life out of my face. Okay.
So good.
Strappiana.
Not Strappiana.
They fit so good. Oh my God, look.
Right?
Can you handle it?
I can't handle it.
They're so comfy.
They're good. They're really amazing.
Hashtag
sponsor. Yeah, right. Crocs if you're listening.
Wait, and then this goes like that.
Yeah, you can do it both ways. I'm a clog. I'm like a clog person.
I like a clog because if I need a jolt,
yeah, right. If you got to run,
if that fast foil needs to come out, hun, and I'm across the room, I need to be able to
slip into those shoes quick. True.
Did other people just put them on?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's been like everyone's obsessed for sure.
I'm so gagged.
Everyone's obsessed, and it's been just like it's been a cool part of the. Tags are coming off, all the things.
Babe, I'm gonna just live in this. Right? Paula, it's my baby.
They're so good. But they look great. Like when you find the pair that works for you, it's like it totally works.
And wait till I get my charm game on.
I cannot wait.
Okay, I'm going to have giraffes.
You need everything. You need all of it. I love it.
I want to dangle one.
Yes, absolutely. Like, why wouldn't you?
I'm obsessed. Thank you so much. Oh
my gosh, you're welcome.
I was wondering why you asked me my shoe size. I didn't even think.
You answered so quickly and easily, and I was like, it was so good. I loved it. All right, well, I think that's the end of the show. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that conversation, then some cute Crocs at the end of all of it.
I'm obsessed. I'm gagged. Wait, can I say something to you?
Yes, you can.
Like, I am so proud of you. So much. Because listen, guys, we said it earlier, like 13 years, and you have been someone that I looked up to my whole career. Absolute truth. And I was like a baby, like in this industry, like, and just seeing you navigate this industry with so much passion and loyalty. And I think that's like lacking in this industry. It's like, you were always available. Like back when I was a national educator at Palm Mitchell, like you were always there. You were always available. So I want to thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so proud of you, and I cannot wait to see what the future brings for you.
For both of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're rising to the top. Let's go.
We're elevating, doing all the things. All right. Well, if you love this episode, tell your friends. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, share it, tell everybody. And make sure you check out our other episodes. Jay, thanks for being here. This was a cool conversation.
Thank you.
I love it. Okay, we'll see you guys next time. Mwah.